Hey, how's it going, guys? Rich here, the host of CanadianCannabisRadio.com. Just wanted to take a quick minute before we get started here to introduce myself, to tell you a little bit about the show. Every day, we're moving closer and closer to cannabis legalization in Canada. This is a really exciting time. There's a lot of strong opinions. There's a lot of misinformation. We want to provide a platform for people to have the discussions that matter. We're going to be featuring national and provincial cannabis news updates. We're going to be featuring in-depth discussions with master growers. We're going to be featuring real conversations with the patients, producers, and policymakers, and the entrepreneurs that are shaping the Canadian cannabis space. It's a work in progress. Every episode's going to get better. The first episode is with a very dear friend of mine, Brian Engel. He was kind enough to come on and share his experiences as a medical patient, licensed under the MMAR. He talks about growing his own weed. We talk a little bit about how he manages his pain on a daily basis. We talk about his trip to Vancouver for the 420 celebration last year. We talk about his hopes for legalization, his opinions on the Liberal government and his advice for the Liberal government. We talk about his advice to the LPs. We talk about some of the LP weed that he smoked and what he thought of it. We talk about a lot of things. It's a little bit more of a relaxed conversation than most of the content on the podcast is going to be, but I wanted to get started right away with somebody that I'm very comfortable with and somebody that I speak with often and has some very strong opinions himself. So without further ado, I bring you Brian Engel.
Of the consideration of Bill C-45.
Do not agree that
An act respecting cannabis.
Everywhere you look.
probably becomes the drug mule.
Couldn't even see because it was just a cloud of smoke.
And it was so fun.
So right now, every soccer mom on the East Coast is shitting in their pants listening to you describe this.
No, I'm telling you, embrace it. Misinformation.
Thanks for tuning in. You're listening to the CanadianCannabisRadio.com podcast. I'm your host, Rich Terpene. Joining us today is Brian Engel. Brian, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
So, Brian, you are licensed under the MMAR.
Yes, since 2012, I have been a licensed medical patient.
Is your house covered in mold?
No, I vent outside.
It's lovely. I've seen it.
Yeah, I had a licensed electrician come in. I vent my lights outside.
Tell me about that. How many plants can you legally grow?
I am licensed to grow 25 plants indoors.
What are you growing right now?
Primarily indicas, Sweet God, Gorilla Glue, Blueberry OG, and Vanilla Kush.
And where'd you get those genetics? Where'd you get your seeds?
Originally, we purchased seeds from Health Canada and grew their cannabis and found it to be very ineffective as pain relief. So I was forced to source genetics on my own. There were none available through any other avenues for MMAR patients. I went online, found what I was looking for as far as traits for pain relief. Then I went and found those seeds.
So you go through some strains, you try some different ones. Presumably some of them are more effective for pain relief than others.
Valid point. Like down to a specific plant. I personally find there's a strain of the Sweet God that's the God Bud cut and most effective plant I've ever found for pain relief.
And you showed me this plant downstairs. It's a beautiful plant. It's just gets really purple late into flower. It's really, really, really resinous, just incredibly gooey. As I understand it, an ACMPR patient would not be able to grow that cut. Is that correct, or am I?
I think that is, to my best of my knowledge, correct. I wish we had a phone right now and we could phone.
We could
Kirk.
call
We could call Kirk and we could get the correct answer.
Yeah, no, I'd be interested to see. Because it's going to be tough to enforce that. I mean, how do you control people popping seeds? People want to do that. They want to grow unique genetics. They want to grow something that's going to help them manage their pain, manage their symptoms, whatever that happens to be. Or if you just like to grow nice pot, you're going to want to grow nice pot.
People are going to grow their own cannabis. People should grow their own cannabis. People will save themselves money on their medicine. And you know what's in it.
You're already growing your own medicine. Is this bill going to affect you at all?
Bill C-45 for the foreseeable future will not affect me personally.
Are you worried about the non-medical market potentially drawing focus from or adding to the challenges of medical patients like yourself?
Yeah, what we call medicine, other people call a drug. And to me, when people look at cannabis as a drug, they negate all of the medicinal qualities.
Yeah, it's almost as if the medical patients are being left in the dust and kind of lumped in with all the recreational users, or so it would seem.
Yeah, with the announcement of the dollar excise tax, and they were worried about people trying to claim that they were using it for medicinal and not, but they should have come out like the recommendation said, and it should have been zero tax on medicinal cannabis.
Yeah.
That would have gone a long way, but now it's just they're setting themselves up to fail.
Yeah, we saw that with veterans when they cut the veteran allowance down.
When Justin did that, I was so disappointed in him.
You know, I have a hard time when I hear you say you've been waiting for Justin for so long, and
this isn't Justin. Justin changed after 3 months after he came into office. He dyed his hair. When he dyed his hair, he became a politician. You could see it in his presentation, his mannerisms, and everything. The prime minister that Canadians elected, the prime minister that we saw during the last election campaign, that's what Canada needs now.
It's obviously a very Canadian thing, rolling up a doobie, however you want to consume it. Canadians love to smoke pot. Canadians love to use cannabis. There's millions of people getting up every day, going to work, getting their jobs done, using cannabis.
Cannabis is as Canadian as the Trailer Park Boys, Don Cherry, BC Bud. It's, yeah, per capita. I mean, we consume a lot of cannabis. The green avalanche is coming.
How do you educate people that are opposed to this bill? Do you think that it's possible to change people's minds?
I think it's possible for people to change their own minds. I don't think you can change anybody's mind. I think you can show them, as a result of, after a year of legalization, this is the revenue we've collected. Here are the tweaks that we've made to different needs that have arisen, like vape lounges, industrial areas where manufacturers of cannabis goods can be licensed. Once you show them, then there's really nothing to be afraid of, and they can embrace it.
So fast forward to July 2018. You going to buy weed at the LCBO?
At the LPBO?
The LPBO. You going to buy weed at the government outfit? You're going to buy weed at the liquor store?
Medical patients, it's been announced, will pay the same excise tax and HST as recreational users, which further limits reasonable access for us medical patients. So no, I'm not going to buy any weed at the LPBO come July 1st. I'm going to keep growing my own weed, protected by the Charter of Rights, and they can both have a big pair of Rickies.
Do you think that other people are going to buy their weed there?
Of course they are. People are going to want to try it.
You've tried some. You smoked some weed from the LPs.
I smoked some Broken Coast LP weed, and it was mighty fine.
What was it? Can you remember the strain?
Well, I smoked some of their Pink Kush,
And the Keats, the White Walker Kush, looked really good.
Yeah, it looks fantastic.
So it can be done.
It's just a weed. It's just a weed. It's not hard to grow.
No, my thoughts exactly. I think that there's no reason why we're not going to see some fantastic weed at the LCBO. I think it's just going to be too costly, and I think that anybody who has ever thought about growing their own, I think they're going to give it a shot. And I think that people are going to find that it's not that difficult to grow really nice pot.
I did the math today on a quarter ounce of weed, 7 grams, from the LPBO, $96.47. I think you're going to go over to people's houses and they're going to show you what they've grown themselves, and you're going to be very, very impressed.
Let's fast forward to 2019. Edibles are on the shelf. The federal government has outlawed the weed gummy bear. What is the number one selling edible cannabis product on the shelf?
Beverage. Syrup.
Yeah?
Yeah, syrup. Syrup that you can, water-soluble syrup made from fruit juice concentrate that you can just mix into anything.
Like Amigo? Like whatever they
call it. I don't
squirt.
know. Like I used to do with Nestle Quick when I was a kid in milk.
Yeah.
Right? That's what
Yeah, beverages, mixable.
That's what I
mixable.
think the number one thing is going to be, because it's water soluble.
Can of cola.
They've made the breakthrough, right? The breakthrough has been
For
made.
sure. This stuff exists.
I saw a beverage company for the first time at Vancouver 420, and they were selling beverages for $9 a piece, and it had 10 milligrams in it.
I need to drink a few of those.
10 milligrams will be the standard. 10 milligrams, 5 milligrams.
Yeah, unit dose, standard.
Follow
10
the
milligrams.
same rules that Colorado did.
We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about 420 Vancouver. At CanadianCannabisRadio.com, we're committed to bringing you the real discussions with patients, producers, and policymakers that are shaping the Canadian cannabis landscape. If you've got a story to tell, we want to hear from you. Check us out online at CanadianCannabisRadio.com, and be sure to subscribe to future episodes for more Canadian cannabis content. Canadian Cannabis Radio. Share, learn, grow. And now back to your show. And we're back. You're listening to the CanadianCannabisRadio.com podcast. I'm your host, Rich Terpene. Brian, thanks again for coming on the podcast.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Tell me about your experience in BC as a medical patient. Tell me what it was like to go there.
It was really, really incredible. 2 things really struck me that day when I was thinking about it, preparing for this. One was all the police that were there, and how when everybody walked by the police, like to go across the street, everybody was saying thank you to the police. The whole day long. Everywhere I went and you saw a police officer, there were people walking by just saying thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for keeping us safe. And it was really, really remarkable. It was amazing to see how the cannabis industry has become more sophisticated in terms of technology, marketing, brand, consumer education. It was just amazing to see all these brands grow up right in front of your eyes. There are dispensaries every 5 blocks. To walk into a dispensary and not be treated like a criminal was the most liberating feeling. It made me truly proud to be Canadian. I asked them, do you want to see my paper? And they were like, nope, just need to see ID. And full selection of flower, full selection of concentrates. We purchased cannabis from the dispensaries. And we went to Cannabis Culture Lounge and got hotboxed, and it was fun. And they need proper ventilation. They really, really do in vape lounges. I'm all for that. I want to be able to sit there for more than 10 minutes and be able to
Right.
breathe good, clean air. You know?
For sure. For sure. We need vape lounges, though, first before we can properly ventilate them.
Yeah, we need vape lounges. And that's where even Victoria is so progressive that they issued a license for the dispensary, a license for the cash machine because they recognize the need of patients to get cash and not carry it with them when they were going to get their medicine. And then they are even taking it one step further because when we were in Vancouver, you could roll joints or prepare cannabis however you wanted to inside the dispensary, but you couldn't consume it. So that's where we went to the Cannabis Culture Lounge. But in Victoria, they've recognized that. They're so progressive. And that's a big thing because if you think about Toronto, and if they tell people they can't consume cannabis in the public, then what's everybody going to do? Where are they going to go? If they live in a condo, if they live in an apartment, if they live with somebody who's allergic to smoke, or if they live with their mother, or there's so many what ifs. Where are they expected to go? To somebody's basement in Sudbury? Like, where are people going to go?
Do you think that Ontario is ever going to be like that, or do you think we got too many suits?
Ontario's about misinformation. Until 10 years ago, 5 years ago, even last year for some people, when they purchased cannabis in Ontario, they had no idea what they were getting. It was a bag of weed. When I was growing up, it was always just a bag of weed. And once we have legalization in Canada for a couple of years, and they tweak things a bit here and there, information will win out over misinformation. So I believe in the end, Ontario will be as progressive as British Columbia, and the rest of Canada will slowly fall into place. It's only a plant.
How do we get there? What are the first steps?
The first steps are for everybody to make a choice, whether July, whatever it happens, they're going to grow cannabis, consume cannabis, get educated. The people who already consume cannabis, they have no problem with it. And that's unbeknownst to many in this country. It's a lot more people than they think.
Are we going to see a future where somebody who's growing their pot at home is able to sell it to, for example, an independent third party? It gets tested, it gets turned around and either wholesaled to processors, distributors, or it just gets sold locally. Do you think that there's room for the home growers in the market?
If you look around the world, whenever governments have gone after farmers, it's never done good things for the economy of those towns, of those cities, of those areas. From Jamaica, you're seeing small little towns and people and villages benefit and flourish because they can be involved in the cannabis industry. They've come out of the mountains of Jamaica, down near the cities, and they're doing real legal grows.
And it's bringing a lot of business to the communities. You've got big companies coming down, getting involved. You got guys going down, building research facilities in Jamaica. You were telling me about Bubble Man.
What foresight he had.
There's a huge opportunity for international business development.
Have you seen American X?
This is the software you were telling me about. It's the seed to sale.
They've provided a software that is completely transparent to the government. They've allowed private people to get involved as suppliers, and everything gets tested, and everything is trackable.
And that's the future, honestly, is grandma's growing 10 pounds of bushweed. Send it on in, grandma. It gets tested. nothing in it that shouldn't be in there. It gets wholesale to distributors, processors. It gets sold locally. This is the future, is some system where everybody's allowed to contribute. Everything's getting tested. There's nobody spraying Avid all over their, the majority of people that want to contribute to this industry are not hurting people. They're not trying to hurt people. The majority of people who are contributing to this industry want to grow pot that they can be proud of. That's what people want to grow.
They want to grow probiotic cannabis that has incredible medicinal values, and for people who use it recreationally, they'll be extremely satisfied. And as long as the government is getting their part, everything's being tested, everything's transparent, everybody wins.
Somebody who doesn't grow their own pot, what do you think they're going to be looking for when they go to buy their weed on July 1st?
I think they're going to be looking for a name that they recognize. I understand that they're not going to be allowed to view any product in the LPBOs. You got to buy it sight unseen, so I don't know whether they're going to have pictures up. But they have to err on the side of caution.
I think that they're trying to appease the more conservative or right-leaning liberals that may oppose this bill.
I think people are going to try it. The curiosity factor. I think it's going to be expensive. I think people will buy it once or twice, and they'll decide maybe it's for them, maybe it's not for them.
I think there's going to be a lot of people with 4 monsters in their basement and driving around 30 grams all day. I think there's going to be a lot of people with just 4 monster reefer plants in their basement and just a fucking 2 pounds in a war chest. Can you imagine? I think that's what we're going to see. I think we're going to see a lot of people with just 4 monster weed
Entrepreneurs.
plants. Entrepreneurs. Ooh.
Entrepreneurs.
Oh, that's ballsy.
Entrepreneurs, 4 plants, go around selling half ounce to their buddies. I mean, but they got to be able to report it. That's the thing, right? You got to be able to record all this stuff. And that's where something like American X, something that's completely transparent, they have to take the lock off the door. Where's all the weed going to come from?
That's such a cheap shot, I feel like. That's such like a...
No, I don't. Where is all the weed going to come from? I don't know. Like,
I bet you
Colorado,
I bet you they're stockpiling it right now.
They're selling everything that they can to international markets at full retail. Why wouldn't you? If in Colorado, the first morning, diesel, they expected 300 people, 3,000 people showed up. It was $15 a gram. Whoops. Nope. It's $30 a gram, and you were allowed to buy 2 grams.
Dude, Tweed can't afford to lose brand presence on day one. They're going to guarantee that they have the largest supply. I promise you, these guys, it's in their best interest.
But we're talking metric tons here.
Oh no, I know that there's
we're not
there's
talking
nowhere near enough right now.
We're not.
I have no idea where it's going to come from, but I assume it's going to come from somewhere.
Where's it going to come from?
Presumably
Ross's Gold.
Hey, shout out to Ross Rebliati.
Hey,
Ross's
I can't
Gold.
wait to try Ross's Gold. I can't wait for the West to just.
If you check
flood
out his
the
Instagram,
East.
he grew some beautiful stuff this year. Ross's Gold, the RG hashtag Ross's Gold Private Reserve. It looks really good. We're going to try and get out there and chat with him.
Kiss your mother goodbye before you leave, because you won't come back. I'm telling you.
Yeah, but we want to go all over the place. I want to go out to the East Coast. There's a woman doing an aquaponics, an LP.
Oh, yeah, I remember
There's
you
an
telling
LP.
me.
Yeah, she's doing an aquaponics setup out there. It's so high tech. $2 million alone in high efficiency lighting.
And not only that, the Premier of New Brunswick did 2 deals, one for $80 million with an LP and the other for $40 million, because he bought 9,000 kilos for the first year. That's 9 million grams to ensure that his province didn't run out of cannabis. Who the Trailer Park Boys sign with anybody yet?
Yeah. OGI?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, you got Trailer Park Boys with OGI. You've got Snoop. You got Snoop with Tweed. And it's so funny. Kathleen Hokinson from Minneapolis, she runs a company called Cohen Energy Consultants. When she came up, she was talking all about Snoop, and she was I was laughing because just if you Google Kathleen, she's not the kind of woman who you would expect to be rolling with Snoop. So I was having a laugh for sure. I mean, you've got who else? Julian Marley with Marican.
Yeah. It's all about branding.
Well, absolutely. And I think that these guys need to be able to develop brand presence. They need to be able to let people know what the difference is between one type of cannabis and the other type of cannabis. People deserve to know whether it's organic. They want to know.
Do they issue terpene profiles?
I'm not sure if they issue terpene profiles.
Do they issue terpene profiles with their testing?
Oh, man, I have no idea.
Well, terps are like the paint on the canvas. They enhance what kind of experience you get from cannabis. If you think of THC like the canvas, the terps are the paint.
So you think we're going to see things move towards extracts? Things are going to move towards, the vape pens. Should companies be allowed to combine food-based terpenes with their extracts?
I think it was already happening in the black market, right? But people have to be told
Absolutely
that what's in that they're being.
It's all about
full disclosure.
It's all about full disclosure. It's all about informed consent.
100%. And just a little side note, distillate is always better with shatter.
That's your experience.
That's my experience. I can speak firsthand.
We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about what it's like living with pain day to day. It's cold outside, but at Ontario Grower Supply, the deals are hot. If you're growing reefer, then come on into OGS, bring some of that Christmas money you got, and get yourself that gift you really wanted. Whether you're growing in soil, cocoa, or hydroponically, Ontario Grower Supply has everything you need to grow lush, healthy tomatoes. So stop in at 1 Adelaide Street North or check them out online at ontariogrowersupply.com. Before the break, we were talking a little bit about how you manage your pain. How much weed do you smoke a day?
Probably 3 to 4 grams of cannabis a day, and then eat a fair amount of edibles. That's the key to really severe pain and effective pain management.
We talked a little bit about shatter.
That's the future of cannabis, is the concentrates. For a medical patient who could smoke 3 or 4 or 5 joints an hour, I can do 2 dabs of shatter and not have to smoke a joint. The gram of shatter is going to last you the same amount of time as a 1/4 ounce of cannabis would. It's just in a different form.
Bill C-45 doesn't contain any provisions for concentrates.
There are no provisions for concentrates as an oversight. The green avalanche is coming, and we will see what we will see, but there will have to be a provision made because licensed producers already have the ability and want to make concentrates. See, now companies are looking at having to pay for under insurance coverage for medical cannabis, right?
How far do you think that should go?
Is it a medicine? Yes. If it's deemed a medicine and it's legal, and why shouldn't it be covered under somebody's health plan?
Do you think that there's a difference between somebody that has severe chronic pain management, somebody who has MS, for example, and somebody who's got anxiety? Do you think that should be covered differently?
No, I think a medical patient is a medical patient. Until you've lived inside of somebody's skin, you can't judge what's right or wrong for them. Just because you don't like somebody's medicine doesn't mean it's not a medicine.
So you're just kind of watching all of this go down because, as we said earlier, you're not going to be affected by Bill C-45. What are your hopes for all of this?
I hope that misinformation turns into information, as we've seen in British Columbia, where politicians and legislators have realized that it's just a plant. I had to live as a medical patient under Stephen Harper's regime, and it was horrifying. So I think that Bill C-45 is definitely a step in the right direction. I think the two-pronged message of the government is the two-pronged message of the government, and everybody will see in a year and a half that it's only a plant. It has incredible medicinal benefits, and if they do it right, everybody wins.
What are your recommendations for the Liberal government?
The cannabis industry has existed and flourished for 80 or 90 years under prohibition, persecution, reefer madness. So for the government to just step in and say we're going to cut everybody out except for the LPs and everything's got to be just in weed, it's not going to work. They won't be able to supply the demand. The green avalanche is coming. Let everybody in on it. Make it completely transparent. And everybody wins. So what would I say to the Liberal government? Everybody has to win. Otherwise, it's going to take over Canada and they're not going to be able to control the brush fire.
As somebody who's been a member of Cannabis Counterculture for many years now, what's your message to the LPs?
My message to the LPs is, if you deliver quality, the sky's the limit. There's no ceiling to what they're going to do. Build bigger facilities, grow it probiotically, and grow as much as you can.
Do you wish them well?
I wish them all the love in the world. I think it's a great thing for Canada. This is something that should be embraced. This isn't an us versus them. We're all on the same team. It's all pro-cannabis. How we get up the mountain, everybody's going to take a different path.
That's it, man. That's it. Absolutely. There is room for all of us to play. July 2018. It's coming.
In July 2019, who is selling weed in Ontario? That's the question.
We talked about this. We're gonna take a bet.
Yeah, we're all gonna get. There's a few of us. We're gonna put in a little bit and write on a piece of paper who we think will be growing weed at the end of the first year.
Who's gonna be selling it? Who's gonna be selling weed?
Who's gonna be selling weed? Yeah,
Shoppers Drug Mart, Loblaws,
dispensaries.
Yeah,
dispensaries will still be open. They're
You
not
think so?
gonna, yeah, because the dollar excise tax, the HST, the no price break for medical users, they don't provide reasonable access. So reasonable access for patients that are protected, I don't think the government has fulfilled reasonable access. I don't think their plans in the first year will fulfill reasonable access.
Brian, I want to thank you for coming on the podcast.
A real pleasure to be on. Can I ask you one question before I leave?
Absolutely.
What is your hope for legalization?
I see a future where anybody who wants to grow cannabis can grow cannabis and contribute to the industry. I see a future where small growers, big growers, everybody's playing together. I see cannabis tourism. I don't know where to begin. Can't wait.